Yeah, hi. This is Bhuvna Meenakshi from India, and I'll be today discussing with you all at this JS Conf Japan about various accessibility challenges and some tips as well to how to create inclusive environments to further help in diverse participation in various technologies that we use. So I'm very glad to be virtually participating in this conference. It's my first time with the JS Conf Japan, and it's really great to be part of this event and also a round of appreciation and thanks to the organizers and volunteers who've been coordinating this extremely well because in the past I have tried to be part of organizing such events, especially remote ones, and let me tell you, it's definitely a very draining process, but it's so good to see the organizers here trying to run this smoothly, especially with different time zones. So thanks for this. And so just a little about me. So I'm from India. I'm from the most south part of India called Tamil Nadu, and I'm basically a computer science graduate, and for a while I've been working across and reaching technology to different um, people, to various groups of people, trying to figure out how technology fits for for digitally exclusive groups as well. And also I've been more curious to do socio-tech research, and now managing a small project with the Coco Foundation. It's an open source project on creating open docs and stuff, and also the small initiatives that I've taken as part of my passion, and also closely relate to what I focus on is more towards bridging the gender gap in tech. So that's how the Women in Tech collectives was formed, and this is to support women from various backgrounds of different age and groups to participate in the tech uh, effectively, and also um, help them in training various skills that could match with the with the hiring process in different companies, and how to scale them further. And this an initiative with my friend Lena. It's called the Mergeability. So as neurodivergents, we more keen to start this initiative. It's a small, slow-paced passion project, I would say, where we are focused on um, understanding how neurodiversity exists in different places, and how more awareness could be created on this, and with respect to correlating this with tech and creating accessible platforms, is something that has inspired me to bring to you all about this talk as well. So let's move further. Cool. So, in my talk today, we'll be more discussing about web accessibility. What is web accessibility? A11Y, and also, basic terminologies that is essential for accessibility, and also what are the assistive technologies that exist, and what's the website accessibility key challenges and what needs to be addressed, and also how to implement your code script how to implement accessibility in your code, and also the future of accessibility technologies. So my presentation will be in English, and um, and also it's more to cover the fundamentals of web-based accessibility and accessibility in general. So yeah, so starting with what's web accessibility. So we all have different types of needs in our daily life, like could be starting from any fundamental access to like public transport, or like even walking through the stairs or any of those, right? So just imagine on a day while we're injured, um, have a knee injury or something of that sort, and then want to still access the regular stairs, but that's not something going to be possible. We need an alternate for basically accessing the same process, but then we need a different sort of an option to do a particular thing, right? So it's the same thing while it comes to inclusive accessibility, where there are tons of process, there are tons of jobs, or like tons of things that exist, but how to make them accessible for different people, how to make them accessible for those especially with different challenges or with different abilities, how to make them inclusive into an environment and um, get them also into the working process is all about the accessibility, right? So uh, while 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 we have universal standards, while we have universal um, things to address specific problems, but then not all the solutions address everyone. So that's the challenge, uh, how accessibility comes into existence, and how it provokes a thought for how to have accessibility as a key function, or like a key constraint while it comes to considering any sort of global response to different issues. So one such is also web accessibility. We see today, the source of knowledge has been from the web, and there's like web is like an open book, and we access different data, information, knowledge and stuff from the web. So while this is accessible for everyone throughout, but there's very I would say, like probably a consideration needs to be done while it comes to people with specific needs, or like while it comes to people with different challenges or abilities, who need to access this universal open book, right? So that's where the A11Y um, project comes into place, um, where A11Y is a group of community again, with people from different backgrounds, diverse abilities, challenges, culture, and it's a diverse team of people who contribute to this lovely project, and the base of this is essentially helpful in addressing accessibility issues with respect to web. So according to the A11Y, it is they've clearly stated that accessibility as a constraint has always been overlooked um, in traditional digital design and development education. The very reason to this is because to consider accessibility, it does need some extra specific time to do the process by itself, like to check whether particular thing goes through certain compilance, certain set of rules or not and stuff. So it essentially requires the person developing the product to dedicate a particular phase by itself to consider accessibility as a constraint. And in the other and the other way, where have heard more complaints about, is more of like it's also expensive, and also it needs special resources to implement, which is all right, like which is all understandable. But why it is essential is because not I mean, while we try to um, implement the product keeping in mind the end users, so the end users are not just people, people of the same type, yes, but yes, that there could be a set of people who have same type of accessing the user interface and stuff, but it's not always the same. You have like different diverse people from diverse countries, diverse culture, diverse abilities, and different people need their own way of access to a simple interface, let it be even a small UI or like a small mobile app that I want to use. So while you have to reach such a broader audience, it is very essential to definitely consider something as in like a web accessibility for creating effective digital experiences. So um, so there's always been different approaches to this, and one such is, you know how accessibility as a term can evolve. um, it's accessibility, it's not a standalone term where you just create an accessible solution for a specific set of people and you leave the rest, and you just try to isolate them. It's not that way, but accessibility is something that is for everyone, that is like something where it should be considered while you create uh, a user experience, um, and it should and also how it also compiles with the web standards that exist with the W3C, and also creating assistive technology for different people with like audio, motor, cognitive, and different challenges, right? Um, so all of these intersect at a point to create um, a wonderful experience for your users, while essentially keeping accessibility in mind. So I mean, I use Twitter often, and I mean, the best part of Twitter is also keeping myself updated with some accessibility based tweets as well. So was inspired by a few of um, especially I'd be sharing a few more screenshots of few other tweets. So these are people who definitely advocate about accessibility, and it's very inspiring. I would recommend you to follow them as well if you're interested. um a- so um so it's very much understandable um to know the purpose of like having whatever feature or like whatever um I would say a piece of code that you have in while creating your application. And uh, it's just not about the goal that you take in mind while you create a specific application, but also the user who's going to see the end application should be knowing the piece of information of like why, how, and people are more curious to understand how this is going to be implemented, or like why is my data at this particular uh, information box being collected, or why should I have a strong password, why should I have a password to to basically have different type of strings, like also have numbers, or how to make it a little stronger. So and also how and where my data is being stored, for what purpose it is being stored. So I mean, these sort of like having those small nitty gritty things that in mind could really help in understanding the from the user's perspective to why a particular piece of information is collected, or how can, I mean, if that particular text box is to only handle numbers, then could be a suggestion tip saying this accepts only numbers. Or like if you want to define the length of the numbers, you can mention the length of the numbers as well. So rather than me trying to figure out where they were, like if I would enter something and get an error, not figuring out exactly to why the error pops up. So these basically assist user to have a good experience and have like a smooth experience overall while accessing any of your particular interface, right? And yeah, so these are basic uh, terminologies which is often need to be considered when it comes to accessibility, because these are very very standard forums that create set of I would say universal standards on how to implement accessibility in web. So W3C is very popular, the worldwide consortium which defines how the web needs to be, how and what you need to implement within your web um, based on the standards. So W3C took the initiative to also have accessibility as a placeholder, and it's called as Web Accessibility Initiative, and this has been very specific in creating standards and guidelines for accessibility and for people, keeping in mind different set of users, keeping in mind different types of both physical and mental abilities across various spectrum, I would say. So the WCAG, which is the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines, so this is more specific in giving what the technical standards are, and and it basically follows four broad standards, which is perceivable, like how your user can understand specific um, details, and how it is essential to keep in mind what needs to be made understandable for the users and what needs to be made very transparent in the process. And then operable, like having different control systems, having different navigation systems, understandable, is more like to have proper um, you know interface to get the sense of like what are you trying to achieve, right? So and also robust, so basically having an effective smooth experience while you access a particular let's say web application while trying to develop. So these guidelines are basically helpful while you develop certain complex or even basic applications. It's easier to have them like a checklist and see whether they go through or like just pass by these filters to understand if your application is accessible for all. And uh, um, and also they've made it a little easier by giving different criteria so you can categorize accordingly. So AA stands for ideal support, and the AAA stands for um, it's for specialized audiences, like it's been customized for specific group of people. So yeah, I definitely mentioned Emma. So Emma is also a great influencer in accessibility. I've really been inspired by her works, and yeah. So um, ARIA is the most essential part when it comes to accessibility. Well, it's more to create accessible, rich internet applications. um, and it's more to understand how widely you can use effectively code, and add essential components in HTML, to basically customize for your users. But unfortunately, there's still uh, you know you know the most essential components, or like more, while we go into the depths of understanding how different types of components could be implemented. Um, I mean, but that is something not possible with the HTML. In those cases, ARIA could help. And yeah, so I would also be discussing a few more about like how those little tweaks in your HTML can also help in adding certain controls and creating little um, text um, and audio, or anything that media that you want to add could be made a little more functional and easily understandable. So the overall idea is to keep things just simple and make it's just that something to make people understand, rather than complicating a website with different colors, fonts, or like dashing stuff, right? So there's a bunch of assistive technologies that is evolving, and essentially there are few technologies, but they've still not been implemented. The WHO also states few challenges that hasn't been met so far. And of course, there's no much access to um, products that for people with low vision. um, Also, like wheelchair assistance, um, not many still have proper access to, and also like auditory challenges, people with auditory challenges experiencing different uh, challenges. And uh, and also, the main issue of all of this is the lack of skilled workers, who can uh, basically help in creating, or like using these assistive technologies. So that's more like where we need to try to understand that more resources need to get trained in understanding such technologies that is required. And also, it's not just about developing them, but also needs to be a lot of grassroots work uh, that needs to be done in educating people to use these sort of technologies, and make them and try to understand how accessible these could also be. So um, this is a um, I mean use case from the MIT, where it states about creating data visualizations accessible for people with visual impairments. So there's a whole lot of data, or I would say any sort of like technology development in general, need to have some sort of uh, you know user research, or people in the team while you develop, to be considered. Like you should have a diverse um, team to consider such sort of like support, while we have to uh, take these products for diverse user experiences and stuff. So um, there's this report from the MIT which clearly states how people with visual challenges have been able to identify different um, data visualization through different forms, and how assistive technologies have helped them in understanding the data, and also finding those sharp data peaks, and also like generating I mean, also generating different data analysis for the process. And it's very interesting to know how voice based assistants and braille keyboard helps such users. And also I think like different sort of implementation in also like having like braille keyboard or even logic mouse uh, definitely helps in people who needs assistance with typing, or further assistance in probably scrolling and stuff. Um, yeah. So, um, Anuradha is also another good advocate for if you want to stay updated about accessibility. And what really inspired me was about this particular alt text in Twitter, uh, which is a kind of like a recent implementation, but it's so useful unless if you don't forget to um, you know add the text before you post it. So it's been very helpful in understanding what the picture depicts, and also detailed description, especially because Twitter is constrained with characters. So in the alt description, you can definitely add as much as words you want, and describe to the users about what the picture is. So this has been of late really helpful, in especially while for people who want to try to focus on what you're trying to convey from a particular image that you're trying to um, express through. So this is a tip, and again, for if you are using a lot of images in your web application, it's good to have a supporting text to it. So while you're trying to develop your next website, uh, it is essential to consider accessibility in mind. So what could be the ways of having accessibility in your website? Um, so broadly, this is so the first thing that you need to realize is that your website is made for different types of users with different types of abilities, right? And that's the reason why you need to have this user tested with people with different abilities, like cognitive, motor, hearing, or vision. So it's recommended to have good um, um, I mean, good bunch of diverse folks, and also, while you have testing into the process done, probably your design researchers can help in this as well. So, the BBC design is like a wonderful team that really inspires me for all the accessible based um, considerations that they have for different types of design implementations. And also their neurodiversity team really inspires me for um, having different types of um, like criteria for workspace, or like even for creating technology for neurodiverse participants who are accessing the your particular application, right? And yeah, so the essential things that needs to be kept in mind are basically like trying to understand how what so you're going to start with a lot of testing. So while you do your different user test. It's also um, more to understand. While you do your QA process, it's just going to take a little while for you to consider a few things more in addition than your regular testing job. So, but then this is going to help millions of people who come from diverse backgrounds. So starting with how uh, like as you test your HTML content, and you can create sitemaps, and also see to that you arrange the links in subdomains. um, you know Use the sitemap colors carefully so that it's more understandable, and it doesn't and also probably you can give the option to customize um, how it is needed. And also in advanced testing with to see if it is compliant with um, WCAG 2.1. Now there is a WCAG 3.0 which is being released, but it's yet to be implemented, so you can check up to the 2.1, um, and whether it is level A or double A compliant. And also um, this is something very essential that I look for when I look at the websites. Um, so there are browsers with add-ons for different things, like if I want to zoom or change the font or the way I want to tweak the website. There's always browser add-ons and stuff, but it's always been like, certain add-ons work, may not work. Sometimes it's built into the browsers, but then sometimes it's not. And um, and I cannot be expecting all the features on different in every browser, right? So that's where an inbuilt option to your website for different accessibility needs really helps. Like, if I want to change the way I want to read a particular piece of information, or if I want to highlight a particular text that I want to focus on and read, or if I want to scale the words accordingly in how many words in a page, in a single page, or things like that. So all of this really helps your readers to easily um, access the content, and also to also have basic understanding. So any of this is definitely going to be helpful for your users. So the other key essential that needs to be also considered are basically like having headings, good amount of space, alignment in your heading, how it could stand out from the rest of the text, and also labeling of the content, labeling of, like, if you have like sub topics, then how that could be done. And people mostly prefer uniform way of having, like, let it be in terms of spaces or labeling, and also having descriptive links, and also if it's a non-text content, then having a description about that helps. um, and coming to how to have the content aligned. So it's basically how to understand what is essential in your website. Like, if you want your user to focus on a specific action, then make sure that particular action needs to be prompted in a way, like using a different color like this, with a different button, or um, some sort of a highlight that makes people understand, okay, this is going to do some sort of a function. And also having um, keyboard trap, um, like accessing through your tab keys or different arrow keys, navigating your website without the use of the mouse. So um, so Yeah, so color is definitely something to be um uh very very essential, I would say, because um you know people who have to read your particular content, they have to, while they focus on specific color, it really distracts. So using contrast variations is very essential. And also, while that you're trying to use something away from the standards, like red, green, or blue. So if these are more like more suggested, or like the colors it's more prominent in using for different users, like global users, it's more easier because there are people who have selective uh, color blindness. So and they have to be considered while you're doing a specific form of color variations in your website. So um and also how to have different, so annotating your wireframes and UX designs, especially while you are in a team of, like, if you're a team of designers and you have someone else whom you have to collaboratively work with, and at the development or the design phase itself, then it's a good habit to have about, like, how the process level by level works. So it's more easier for people to understand from, or like to take it from where you've left.
Um,
So yeah,
sorry.
sorry.
We are running out of time. So,
Okay.
can, how many do you want to
uh
finish this presentation?
okay. So probably another 10 minutes, is that okay?
Okay, okay. Uh,
Yeah, I can probably do this
can you
quickly.
okay, can you finish it in 5 minutes?
Okay, I'll try. I'll try to rush.
Okay, sorry.
Okay, no problem. Okay, I'll try to rush. All right.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, probably, and post this people. I'll talk to people in the spatial chat. Yeah,
Okay.
cool. Awesome. So, yeah, thanks for that. So, um, coming to, just, given the time, so let me try to be fast here. So, yeah, so while using images, as I already said, giving a description, the alt text. So, in your IMG tag, when you use your IMG tag, try to have an alt text to it, and then also while adding simple audio and video controls, um, you, it's essential to also have good subtitles, like for people who need transcripts or closed captions. It's easier to add it within your video tag controls, with the .vtt file, where you can add your closed captions or your transcripts. So going to the future of web accessibility, there's a Web 3. WCAG 3.0, which is recently come in, and it's focusing on various latest modules, especially with reading elements like EPUB, PDF, and it's a whole lot of things to do for people with specific abilities as well. And also, while it comes to multi-dimensional spaces like VR, AR, XR, it's that's where it's going to be more potential for WCAG 3.0 to create a new revolution for accessibility in different spaces, especially with that's more associated with the web-based technologies. And yeah, um, so if that you want to get started with accessibility, exploring web accessibility, it's also shout out to ADE for also supporting such wonderful open source accessibility tweets and stuff, and works as well. So it's more trying to understand on different phrases about, like, where you really think it cares for the people, where accessibility really needs to be focused on, where it could be like accessibility driven development, and also um, where is the challenge existing, where does it really lack for accessibility, and how it could be implemented in your project. Um, so this is somewhere you can probably get some guidelines to get started on how, if you're super curious to understand why your application needs accessibility, or like why would the world need accessibility, right? So yeah, so you can reach out to me on either of these platforms. I'll try to be there sometime in the special chat to address any queries. With that note, so thanks again for giving me this opportunity, and hope we get to start creating creating a world where accessibility is not still an option, but it's essential. It's an essential element, right? So thanks everyone.